Talking trash has always been a central part of the combat sports experience, and former champion Jon Jones used to do it better than most during his reign as light heavyweight king. Although for his upcoming fight, Jones has decided to take a different approach to fight promotion. Has Jones finally grown out of Twitter feuds? When you're considered the best fighter of all time and have held the belt for nearly a decade, you develop a target on your back. People have been calling Jones out in interviews and on Twitter for years, and Bones did not shy away from a good old Twitter war. His opponent for UFC 285, Ciryl Gane, tried to rile Bones up on Twitter a while back, but to everyone's surprise, Jones decided not to reply, an act greatly appreciated by Henry Cejudo. Now, we know what you're thinking. The king of cringe has had his moments on the mic himself, but he doesn't think Jon needs to sell fights that way anymore. His resume speaks for itself, and Jon agrees. As the best fighter of all time, and as someone who's given the fans some of the most clinical performances inside the octagon, the fight sells itself. Although, I'm not gonna lie, I missed the top-shelf comments that Jones made to his opponents. Let's take a look at some of the best, most intimidating moments Jon has had on the mic, like his hot mics with DC in the mall. You're probably going to see a few moments from the Cormier-Jones rivalry from the previous decade. But we have to start off the discussion with Jones's scariest moment. The two were in separate rooms as a result of past instances, and their interview was on a commercial break when Jon called out to DC, "Hey, pussy, you still there?"
"Hey, pussy, are you still there?"
Now, that line itself is pretty hilarious when we listen to how respectful Jon had been when the cameras were rolling, and DC threatened to spit in Jon's face because of how hypocritical he was.
"Wish they would let me next door so I can spit in your face."
But Jon didn't like this. He checked the cameras, checked the mics, and very coldly said to DC, "If you ever did something like that, I would literally kill you. I'm not going to fight you or beat you. I would literally kill you for spitting in my face." Fighters made threats like that all the time.
"You know I would absolutely kill you if you ever did something like that,
You
right?"
could never.
"Oh, I bet you I could."
Then you should try, Jon.
But the emptiness in Jon's eyes and the calmness of his voice wasn't something you see every day. And Jon's a pretty scary guy outside the ring, with all the trouble he's gotten into with the police, the firearms he owns, and the highly trained hunting dog at his house. If someone broke into Jon's house at night, it's very likely he doesn't make it out alive. Jeez. Let's take it down a notch with another slightly less menacing moment before the Jon-DC rematch. His insults to DC turned out to be true. One of the most interesting things about trash talking is how much truth there will be to the claims once the bell actually rings. And we found out over his career that Jon is pretty much always serious. Before he met DC for the second time, he told DC he was going to finish him. He did. When Jon failed a drug test for cocaine during the aftermath of their first fight, Jon used that to make fun of DC before they met again.
"Back-to-back weekends. Cocaine one, your ass the next." It was great. That's a month for the ages.
He mocked Daniel, saying that even on cocaine, partying on the weekend, Jones was able to beat him. DC specifically told Jon that he knows the plan is to catch the shorter fighter with a left high kick, and that it was never going to happen. That's exactly how DC got beat. In turn, Jon told DC that there was nothing he could do to stop Jones from knocking him out as he was on the ground. That every minute the Olympian spent training for this fight would be a waste of his life. That's a pretty cold line in any situation if you ask me. But it became legendary when Jon dominated a prime DC just like he said he would. And this real talk didn't stop with DC. Jones was a press conference menace during his prime. Being that successful in the ring grants you an aura in front of the press. And Jon was very good at using it to intimidate his opponents.
More confident in it. Oh, he got hurt. That's it.
When he was about to rematch Gustafsson for the belt after an incredibly close first fight, he lost it at the Swedish fighter for his dry answers. He blasted his opponent, claiming he's the same fighter and person every time he fights. He has stock moves and stock responses. "I'm the best version of myself. I'm better than I was," mocked Jones, telling Gus to just stop trying to be interesting. But it's not just fighters that get scorn from John. When a reporter asked him about his steroid use, John just smirked and waved her off. "Next question," he said. Better journalism. And the poor reporter probably never got to ask John a question again.
Next question, please. Thank you.
I'm sitting down.
Look, I want to
Thank
take the
you.
mic from her. Better questions. Better
just wanna
journalism.
know
I don't understand what your question is.
Is there a real
What's the reason?
Better
for
journalism.
having-
But Jones doesn't back down from talking trash to people his own size. Not even the style bender could outdo Bones. Remember when Izzy versus Jones super fight was one of the hottest topics in the UFC? In a conversation with Ariel Helwani, Izzy predicted 2021 to be the year the two champions would meet inside the octagon.
2021.
It will happen.
Yes, it will happen. And
100%.
even if he goes to heavyweight, it'll happen. 2021 in Raiders Stadium, Las Vegas.
But John was unbothered. Why 2021? Because he's scared today, said John. He'll be scared in 2020, he'll be scared in 2021, and he'll be scared after that. He then followed it up with a personal favorite zinger at Adesanya. "I've been winning world championships since he was getting knocked out overseas."
I've been winning world championships, since he was getting knocked out overseas, fighting for $5,000. I've been doing this.
This one probably stung a little because one of the rare blemishes on Israel's record was being knocked out by Alex Pereira. And now that Poatan has taken Izzy's UFC belt as well, the diss has aged like fine wine. It also proves that John is keeping an eye on his opponents, watching for moments of weakness that he can exploit if he ever needs to, like when he saw DC crying after their first match. So when Cormier called John a crybaby for his steroid use apologies, DC was promptly reminded of the time when he had his head on teammate Cain Velasquez's shoulder, crying after their first matchup. Ouch! As it turns out, one must be a fighter of certain repute to even be dissed by Jones. Dominic Reyes didn't even deserve to be insulted. There have been generations of legends and young contenders calling Jones out for a fight, hoping to take his title away from him, and generations of fighters have failed. So when Reyes earned a shot at the belt, he came in with the typical youthful bravado that a contender needs when taking on a fighter of John's pedigree. But John was having none of it. He let Dom know that he was watching him and training hard for the fight, but that's just who John is. He reminded Reyes that John was out to do something special. He was on the path to becoming the best of all time, and in that journey, Dominic was nothing but a pawn in the game. Reyes tried to fire back by repeating the line to Jones, but that doesn't really have much weight behind it when you aren't the most successful champion in the UFC, and also when you end up losing the fight. As weird as it may sound, John told DC that their fight was going to be intimate, that he would make DC his wife.
It's gonna be intimate. I'm gonna make him my wife.
See you in the next video.